Ladies and gentlemen, Christian Walker is heading to the Astros. Bob Nightingale is reporting that it's for 3 years and $60 million. I really like this move for the Astros. I think Diamondbacks fans across the land are going to be sad about this one. He's been a very solid player for them over the years, coming off a very good season, hitting .251, a .335 on base, a .468 on the slugging, a .119 WRC+, 26 home runs. He's been one of the better power hitters in the game for a while now. Also plays great defense at first base. He's going to be a solid addition for the Astros moving forward. But I think, at least to me, this signals the end of Alex Bregman in Houston. The only way that could work is if you move Yordan Alvarez out to left field. Isaac Paredes can be your DH and Bregman can be your third baseman. But I don't see Yordan Alvarez being a full-time left fielder because of all the injuries he's been having. I think DH, maybe a little bit of outfield here and there is the way to go with him. So in my opinion, I think Bregman's time with the Astros is over. I would think at this point, if the Astros do make a move, it's going to be for something in the outfield. You got Chas McCormick, Taylor Trammell, Jake Myers out there. I could see them, making this move with Christian Walker for $60 million. Maybe they can bring in Anthony Santander on, say, like an $80 million deal. Both those players would be cheaper than Alex Bregman, who I think is going to get himself a fat contract at the end of the day. Baseball Trade Values is projecting 6 years and $170-ish million. And with Scott Boras, Bregman's going to get himself a good payday. This is based off of the numbers that he has put up over the last few years. He's been around an average of a 4.5 wins above replacement player. With Bregman coming off another solid season, he's been one of the more consistent players in the game, gives you good offense, plays good defense at third base. He also has versatility. He can play second base as well. Could play some shortstop in a pinch if needed. But Bregman, I think he's going to get himself a good payday, a good veteran addition for a lot of teams out there. Now, with Bregman, there's a few teams that I think he would be a good fit with. Let's start with the Yankees. Now, when it comes to the Yankees, they could use an upgrade at third base. You got Oswaldo Cabrera there. You got Oswald Peraza. But Bregman, is going to be more of a sure thing. He's going to give you that consistent production day in and day out. He would be a solid addition here. But the Yankees, you got to think here, right? They've been adding, ever since they lost Juan Soto, they brought in Fried. Bellinger has a high salary for this year. You also brought in Devin Williams. If they bring in another big contract with Bregman, that would put them at a higher payroll for this coming year, even, after getting rid of Juan Soto. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Yankees do there. And reportedly, it looks like they're looking more at the cheaper first baseman out there, say someone like a Paul Goldschmidt. So are they even in the market for Alex Bregman? And you got to remember, too, they were looking at Christian Walker at one point, who is going to be a lot cheaper than Alex Bregman. So that kind of tells me right there, maybe they're not interested in playing and getting involved with a big contract like that with Bregman. So we'll just wait and see on the Yankees. Maybe they could pivot, but I think they would be a good fit. I think you could also take a look at the Mets. But with the Mets right now, I think their main focus is probably trying to bring back Pete Alonso, right? Fan favorite. He's been one of the best power hitters in the game for a while now. I think it makes a lot of sense to keep Pete Alonso in the fold. Now, if you were to bring in Alex Bregman, Brett Beatty, obviously Bregman would be a huge upgrade over Brett Beatty, who has not been able to figure it out at the major league level. So you could go that route. But with Bregman, you got to remember here, he's got a pull swing. He fit perfectly in Houston with the Crawford boxes, but the batted ball metrics have been coming down a little bit over the last couple of years. So a pitcher-friendly park like Citi Field, I don't know if that would be a great fit for Bregman. I think Alonso makes more sense there, and Pete Alonso would be cheaper than Alex Bregman. So I would say probably not on the Mets, but you never know. They got the money. They can do what they want. Now, maybe the Toronto Blue Jays, right? Maybe they could be a fit here. They absolutely could use another bat here alongside Vlad Jr. They got the money. They're trying to find anyone to take their money. The problem is the outlook is looking a little murky, right? We've been getting some reports that the Blue Jays have been trying on an extension with Vlad Jr., but, considering, the age he is, and you look at someone like Juan Soto, who's right around the same age, and you saw the contract he just got. Now, I don't think Vlad is going to get $765 million, but I think Vlad is going to get himself a fat payday if he becomes a free agent. So I think it's probably best for him to wait until free agency, unless the Blue Jays blow him away with a big extension offer. We'll see. But either way, the outlook is looking a bit murky right now, right? Bo Bichette, he's coming off a down year and he's a free agent next year. George Springer has been declining here. The farm system could use a little beefing up. So, the Blue Jays, the last few years, they've been trying to get over the hump, but they just haven't been able to do it. I don't know if that's a desirable location for these top free agents, but we'll see. Money talks. Maybe they can convince them. Now, we have been hearing about the Red Sox. There's a connection there, right? Alex Cora used to be with the Astros, obviously with Bregman. He just talked very highly about him at the winter meetings, talking about how good of a player he is and how he would be a great addition for teams out there. And he would be an improvement at third base over Rafi Devers, who is statistically the worst third baseman when it comes to outs above average over the last few years. But if Devers were to stay at third base, Bregman could be your second baseman. Bregman actually profiles more as a second baseman at this point because of his arm strength. He still has good range. So I think you could see a situation where the Red Sox bring in Bregman to be the second baseman. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But the one thing with the Red Sox you got to think about too is the money, right? Will they be willing to put down a big money offer for Alex Bregman? That's one thing that they just haven't been doing here in the last couple of years. We'll see if they throw down a big contract like that. I'm not sure if they will. Now, another aspect you got to think about with the Red Sox is they got some good young prospects coming up the pipe that can play the middle infield. Christian Campbell, he has versatility. He can play the outfield as well, but a lot of people see him as a second baseman. You got Marcelo Meyer as well. These two are two of the top prospects in the game, and they're getting very close to Major League ready. So if you bring in Alex Bregman to play second base, well, that's going to block some opportunities for those guys, especially considering you still have Trevor Story under contract for the next few years. He has an opt-out, but I don't think he's going to opt out of it because he's been hurt the last few years. So I don't know. We'll see. But either way, Bregman would create some blockage here for the Red Sox. I still think it would be a great addition. I'd love to see him in Boston. We'll see. I also think the Tigers are a very interesting team here. Now, when it comes to the Tigers, right, you do have Jace Young at third base right now, but defensively, there are question marks with him. So Bregman would be an upgrade there. Maybe you could move some guys around. Maybe Jace Young can play somewhere else. Maybe he could play first. Maybe Torkelson can be moved, possibly. You're right. He hasn't been able to fully figure it out at the major league level. He seems to be a question. He's a question mark moving forward. So I'm not sure there, but Bregman, I think, would also be a great veteran addition for this team. You got a lot of young players. I think someone like Bregman would make a lot of sense. Put him back together with A.J. Hinch. I think out of all these teams, the Tigers would be the most fun fit, but I also think it makes sense at the same time. Will they be willing to spend the big bucks on Bregman, though? We'll just have to wait and see. But this also has some implications for Nolan Arenado. Let's talk about him. Now, when it comes to Arenado, he used his no-trade clause the other day to block a trade to the Astros, and now that they have Christian Walker in the fold, I definitely don't see Arenado coming here, especially when you already have Isaac Paredes at third base. Now, the problem with Arenado over the last couple of years is you have been seeing a bit of regression with the power. Now, this past season, batting average on base were still fine, but the slugging at 394, that's very low compared to his career norm, and a 102 WRC plus, you're right around league average, only 16 home runs. So there is a question mark with the power moving forward. There has been a regression with the batted ball metrics. This is why I think he needs to go to a hitter-friendly park. I think Fenway Park would be a perfect fit for Arenado with the monster. Now, when you take a look at the expected home runs on StatCast, he had 16 this past year. They do have 12 at Fenway Park, but you got to remember, right, with Fenway, you got the monster there. He would play a lot of wall ball if he continued to take more of that line drive approach, but if he maybe adjusts his swing a little bit, get a bit more loft in there, I think you could see anywhere from 20 to 25 home runs possibly, especially with how close the monster is. I think Mike Lowell back in the day is a great comparison, right? He was the throw-in to the Josh Beckett trade. He was coming off an awful 2005 season, and he completely turned his career around with the Red Sox. He set the highest RBI mark for a third baseman in Red Sox history. He was the World Series MVP. I think Arenado can have similar success because the ballpark fits his swing at this point in his career. Now, the Dodgers, that's been a fan favorite mock trade over the years. And with the Dodgers, though, it's been reported that they're not interested in Arenado, but you never know. The offseason's always fluid. Maybe that can change. You could move Muncy over to second base, and then Arenado can be your third baseman. So maybe we could see something there. Now, when it comes to the Phillies, you could have a fit if you moved Alec Boehm, but the problem is he was a better player than Arenado this year. I feel like you're not really getting much better by adding Arenado. I think you would get a little bit more power at Citizens Bank Park, but with Boehm, he's a much cheaper option at this point. I just don't see the Phillies doing that. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, when it comes to the Yankees, like I said, Bregman could be a pretty good fit for them. Maybe the Mets as well. But getting back to the expected home runs at Yankee Stadium, it would be 12. Now, when it comes to Citi Field, it would drop down to 15. Sure, I could see him approving a trade to the Mets. They definitely could use an upgrade over Brett Beatty. So I could see that possibly. But I think this could also have implications for the Mariners. It was reported not too long ago that they were seeking a right-handed veteran first baseman, and one guy on their radar was Christian Walker. It's been reported as of late that they've been looking to move Luis Castillo to try and get rid of that contract so they could be able to afford a bat like Christian Walker. Well, that's not going to happen now, but the Mariners, they definitely need to make an upgrade in this lineup. Now, you got someone like Luke Raley, a lefty bat who did do pretty well this past year, so maybe you could look at some guys like Justin Turner. He was with them for a little bit this year. You got Carlos Santana, so maybe you could work in a cheap guy like that to go along with Luke Raley, or maybe they could still move Luis Castillo and they could find the money for someone like Pete Alonso. The Mariners have been a popular landing spot for him. That would be a big right-handed power bat for them, but will they go the extra mile to bring him in? The Mets, I'm sure they would like to bring him back, but he's going to be pretty expensive. He's definitely going to be more expensive than Christian Walker, so I don't know if that's really going to be a guy they're looking for. We've also heard that there have been conversations about Tristan Casas maybe. Now, we also got a report that the Mariners might not be too interested in Tristan Casas. They would prefer a right-handed bat, but now that the guy that they wanted in Christian Walker is off the board, maybe they could turn their attention to a trade with someone like Casas, who does have a lot of power upside. But in the end, I think it's going to be interesting to see what the Mariners do too. But everyone, give me your thoughts. What do you think of the Christian Walker signing? What do you think now happens with Bregman now that it looks like that he's probably not going back to Houston? What do you think this means for Nolan Arenado? Let me know all your thoughts down below. But everyone, that's all I got for right now. If you can on the way out, hit that like button for me, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.